Hello, my friends. With your permission, I'd like to have only a 60% idea of what we're going to get into today. Here's the general thrust of it. Here's what I want to communicate today. We'll just start with this. We are moving very rapidly into the future, as you have no doubt noticed. The unfolding of AI, the unfolding of our political situation, the unfolding of the different wars all over the world, the climate situation has put us in a place where it feels we're thrusting forward in a way that is unnerving for basically all of us. And if you're like me, you want to be optimistic, but you want to be realistic. You want to keep your head on a swivel. You want to have a sense of where things are going. But this sense of uncertainty in combination with the sense of going really fast has put a lot of us in a place of paralysis. How do you even plan for the future? I'm a Canadian. I live in Canada. We're kind of not really sure how to proceed in terms of business, in terms of our economic policy, because we don't know what tariffs are coming to our country, as an example. And so this paralysis that I've observed a lot of us in, I would like to offer some words for you that you might use to unlock and to find yourself back in the seat of your power and to find yourself in a place of just empowerment, like just knowing what to do and knowing how to interface with the world right now as it stands, 2025 July, although you could perhaps also use this in the future. So I want to begin here. I would like for you to first notice the state of your nervous system. Is your nervous system coiled up tight? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel like you could be easily set off? Do you feel unsafe in your experience even now as nothing threatening is coming for you? Would you be willing, if so, to unwind your nervous system? Would you be willing to relax and allow it to unfurl? And would you be willing to know that it's safe to do so right now? You are now safe to allow your nervous system to relax. If so, you do this simply by inviting your nervous system to unwind and relax. You might say to yourself, release, release, release. You might say, I hereby release anxiety. I hereby release worry. I hereby release my gripping and my reaching for control. For now. And take a minute to look at whatever it is that you are presently obsessed with or fixated on. What are you obsessed with or fixated on? What are you constantly turning over in your mind? For example, some mistake that you made recently, some problem that you're currently encountering, a block in the road, a troublesome person who's giving you a lot of grief, a certain roadblock on your career, like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, what are you just constantly turning over in your mind and constantly trying to figure out? And especially if you're doing it in such a way where you can't put it down, you're just constantly turning it over. Would you be willing to put that thing down? Would you be willing to relax around it? If yes, then bring your attention for a moment away from that thing and to the empty space that this thing is in. So, to take an analogy, if you were constantly focusing on an irritating buzzing noise that's occurring in the room, say, like there's just like some sort of sound that's buzzing off, like I don't know what buzzes, whatever, just a buzzing. And you may notice that this buzzing takes place in the backdrop of silence. You know what I mean? It's like silence. It's not like silence goes away, but just silence is there in the backdrop behind that buzzing sound. So just the invitation is to bring your attention to the silence behind the buzzing. To bring attention to the mental space in which the obsession is happening. Just look there for a minute. And what you may notice is a modicum of relief right away. And why would this happen? Because tension and distortion and pain a lot of the times, especially mental pain, is held in place by that fixated energy. So when we permit ourselves to take our attention off of it for a minute and into the empty space, then sometimes it just falls right through the drain. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about truth, because truth is becoming increasingly important as we go forward, especially if you spend any amount of time online, where we are being given lots and lots of information, and lots of information is being generated. And especially with AI, when we interact with AI, we can't necessarily trust that whatever's being told to us is true or in our best interest, even if it's correct about things most of the time. There's this sense of, I don't know which information to trust. And it also applies in a political way. It's like, which political pundits should we trust? Which politicians can we trust? Which speakers can we trust? Which YouTubers can we trust? Which authority figures can we trust? Which should we trust science or pseudoscience? Should we trust people in spirituality or more practical, earthy, down-to-earth types, you know? And of course, I feel a little hesitant to talk about trust or about truth, because I'm not a PhD in philosophy, and I've not read everything that has been said by all the amazing minds through history and in the present about truth. And so, and there have been volumes said about truth, but nevertheless, there's an aspect that we should look at that I think will be helpful. And it's this: the body knows what's true. The body knows if it's being told something true. And the body knows if it's about to say something true or not. In other words, it knows if it's about to lie. And the body also knows, generally, when it's being told a lie. So if I were to just offer to you now that you know what truth is, you know truth when you hear it, you know the feeling of truth, you know how to discern truth from falsehood. If I were to tell you that, would you be willing to accept and trust that? There's a sort of paradox that we need to play with here, where if you were to take what I just said and take it to an extreme, where you said something like, I always know the truth about everything in every situation, and my intuition is always correct about everything, and if you were to pile all of your trust in it, then you would run the risk of, say, running into a problem. For example, if you were to go to a casino and just trust your intuition and constantly take your life savings and put it on either black or red at the roulette wheel, it really wouldn't work out for you in the end, especially if you did this several times in a row. The possibility of making a mistake gets larger and larger and larger every time you do it. And so there is a probability element in there. And I suppose we could say, like, this is about predicting the future, which is not necessarily easy to predict. You can create projections around it, but you can't necessarily say definitively what's going to happen in the future, because the future is just not written. It's not made yet. But how many of us have had moments where we allowed ourselves to get suckered in by something even though we knew better? Right. This has happened to me, of course. It's happened to a lot of us. And how many times have you heard something false? Like the claim is false. It comes out of somebody's mouth. It's like, it's false. You just know it's false. You just know it. Jesus Christ. It's not true. But then you kind of stick around to allow yourself to get talked into it. And maybe you even want this false thing to be true. So you allow yourself to be talked into it. But then as soon as it's over and as soon as you get away from that situation, you kind of wake up out of it and you realize that you were hypnotized. And that you were right, that this thing was wrong, that this was a lie. So, suppose you were able to trust yourself and to trust your ability to discern truth. It doesn't mean that you go to sleep. Really, this is what I mean to say. You don't just go to sleep about it. You don't just go, oh, okay, that's it. And then the part of you that is awake and discerning and paying attention goes away. That's to invite trouble too. But instead, you trust that you know what truth is, and you remain awake, and you remain conscious. And as long as you remain conscious, as long as you're here, as long as you stay here in this present, in your experience, you're not somewhere else, then you know what truth is. Now, truth applies to what we say, and truth also applies to what we do, because just in the same way that there are true and false things to say, there are also true and false questions, which we speak about in many of our videos here, and I talk about them in the previous video on motivation. There are also true and false actions. Has that ever occurred to you? What does it mean to take an action that's false? Well, to take an action that is life-denying, to take an action that runs contrary to your wellness, to take an action that is unholistic, in other words, creates some sort of short-term benefit at the expense of the whole, including yourself. Actions taken from a place of self-deception, when you kind of convince yourself that you really can get away with something. And that's a general rule, right? If we ever feel like we can get away with something, isn't the answer always no at the end? The very end, doesn't it always catch up with us? What's needed more than ever now is a commitment to truth. Would you be willing to commit to truth? And here's why I say this, is because if you are willing to commit to truth and to make truth one of your highest, if not the highest value, like the thing that you're moving toward, the thing that you're striving toward, at the expense of everything else, if you were to do that, then you would become one that washes away falsehood. You would become one that is difficult, although not impossible, difficult to manipulate. And then if you were to align yourself that way, if you were to choose that as a value, then you would become that for everybody else too. Because it doesn't matter how thick the fog of deception and self-deception is, the commitment to truth washes away self-deception. There can be layers and layers of deception, layers and layers of falsehood. And falsehood is like this. Falsehood is complicated. Falsehood is a story. Falsehood says, like it comes up with all sorts of reasons and justifications and excuses and stories and drama. That's what falsehood does. But truth just asks, what's the truth of the situation? What is the truth of the situation? And if you ask it, you receive it. This brings me to the next thing that I wanted to discuss. Truth comes when it's bidden. It really does. You can view it that way. You can anthropomorphize it in that way, where you say, I intend to know the truth about this. You can do this right now as an experiment right now. Think of something that is vexing you. Think of something that is giving you problems. Think of something that is just, Jesus Christ, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about this. I've tried everything. It's just, this problem's not going away. Excuse me 1 second here. Yeah, this problem's not going away. What do I do? Ask now, what is the truth about this? What is the truth about this? This is a Matt Kahn question. What don't I know about this? What is the truth? And so you can see why we had to talk about trust just a moment ago, because you ask, what is the truth about this? And you get an answer more quickly than you would often expect. Often the answer just comes, and it comes like right there. It's like right there, almost as if it was in your face this whole time. And that's the nature of truth too. It's just in your face. It's right there. But are you willing to know that this is the truth? Are you willing to know and accept that you just came across truth? Because as soon as you start going into doubt and questioning, now it's like you're overshooting it. Like imagine I was asking you, where's my nose? Where's my nose? Where's my nose? And you say, it's right there, it's right there. And I keep looking at your finger and I look around and I go, where? And it's like any attempt to search for my nose is already overshooting it. It's already, do you see what I mean? It's just right there. Now, you can bring yourself out of a place of great complexity and great confusion and unknowing and helplessness by simply committing to truth. What's the truth? What don't I know? What do I need to know? And then you'll find, as a result of orienting this way, asking, and then validating your ability to recognize truth, you become increasingly aware that there's very little that you need to know aside from how to best interface with this moment. What else do we need to know? What else does anyone need to know? So that's truth. Now, there's a nice and a not so nice version of truth, as you have no doubt discovered by this point, which is that truth has a clarifying and sort of healing quality. It has the quality of being able to put you back on track. It has a way of orienting you back toward your center, back toward yourself, which is really cool. Like to just be who you are and to be in the truth of who you are. It's extremely valuable and extremely powerful. Now, what's the not so nice quality about truth? Well, it is eviscerating. It is exacting. Often violent, truth can be. Like, I could say something to you like, okay, here's the truth. That sounds kind of nice. It's like, yeah, I want to know that. But if I say, can I give you the truth right now? Here's some truth. You're not going to like it. It becomes scary. It becomes scary when we are identified with something false. And this effect runs very deep. It cuts very deep. If you believe something that's false and that false belief has been giving you comfort, then truth is extremely scary. And the truth of it is that we just don't know how far down it goes. For example, who do you think you are? What do you think you are? I'm not challenging you, right? But just take a minute to, like, as best as you possibly can, just figure out what you are. And what if that's wrong? Or what is your most foundational belief? How do you orient yourself in this life? Like what is your ground in this life in terms of how you conceptualize what life is, what you are, what you're here to do, what's the right way of doing it, what's the wrong way of doing it? Like imagine for a minute that all of that like basic foundational stuff in which you orient yourself as a thing in the world with something to do and a way of knowing where to go and what to get away from, right? Like this is just like really the most valuable aspect of our psychology. Imagine all of that were wrong. Imagine all of that were just stripped away from you. It would be very scary. You wouldn't even know how to exist. There's a lot of comfort and solace that comes from these mental structures, belief structures. And yet it's a basic certainty that through your commitment to truth, these would be taken away from you, because any mental construct is never truth. It's just a mental construct. This is another thing I wanted to share with you. I'm glad it's coming up. We need to know the difference between truth and an idea, because truth can be conveyed along an idea. So like this would be an example. I could say, hey, maybe my consumption of alcohol or drugs is not healthy. And that's true. I mean, it's not true for me. I don't drink alcohol and I take some drugs, but I don't drink alcohol. But nevertheless, it's like, that would be a true statement. But we could also take an idea like, it's good to be loving. You know, it's good to be a loving person. Which is like, I could say that to you and okay, we may just broadly, generally agree that this is true, although we'd want to define the terms. But then we start running into problems where we actually define the terms. What does it mean to be loving? What does that mean practically speaking? And the more specific and granular we get when we really detail out what that means, we find that this statement is false, or it can be falsified. Really, what I've discovered is that as soon as you say anything, as soon as you make any claim, any utterance of any kind, you can prove that statement to be true, or you can prove that statement to be false. And you can take the opposite of that statement and prove it to be true or prove it to be false. You can do it. You can construct a logic around any of these permutations. So what I mean to communicate by saying this is that you can use words to convey truth, but truth isn't in words. Truth isn't bound to words. And if you take any statement, any book, any doctrine, any way of thinking, any religion, and like any religious scripture, any law of the universe, anything from the Tao Te Ching, like anything, if you make that into truth, you'll always fall on your face. Because words are just words, concepts are just concepts. Truth is conveyed through them, but truth is not bound to them. It's not bound by them. So what is truth then? Truth is just whatever is. If it's real, then it's true. If it's not, then it's not true. If you are aware of it, then it has existence. Therefore, it makes no sense to consider anything that you're aware of whatsoever, including Santa Claus, including anything, and to ask if it's real or not. Instead, a much better question is to ask about the way in which it's real. So therefore, to wrap this up, I suggest that you commit to truth, knowing truth. That you commit to the lifelong work of waking up to deception, especially your own self-deception. I present this to you not as somebody who has mastered self-deception, nor claiming I ever will, but to know when you've been wrong about something and to just be honest about it, right? To have these moments of like, okay, yeah, man, I was wrong. That was wrong. That thing I said, that thing I did, it was wrong. It's so liberating. It frees you up to better align with truth. And then I'll wrap up the wrap up by saying, is truth not what the world needs? It's not like there's a lack of truth. It's not like there's no truth anywhere. This is not the correct way of looking at it. Truth is there. Even falsehoods have reality as falsehoods, as lies. Like they have that sort of provisional reality as the thing that they are, even though the message that they contain is false. This is a good discernment. But by committing to truth, you become a leader for truth. You help guide others back to their truth, to the truth. And as a people, if we become committed to truth, the practice of truth, becoming less and less easy to manipulate, becoming less and less easy to be thrown off of our center, then we are positioned for a promising future. I'm closing out the closing out of the closing out. This is the last bit. There's a lot of doom in the air lately. Don't fall for it. The future's not pre-written. It's not pre-written. It's not inevitable that we're doomed. So don't do that. Remember that you are a creative agent. Remember, you are a creative agent. You are a contributory agent in the world. Whatever you say about the world, whatever you believe about the world, whatever you intend for the world is a vote, is you weighing in, is you participating in the creative process, including if you claim powerlessness. This is why I speak so much about empowerment in so many of my videos here. Is because if you claim or feel or fall under the conviction that you are helpless, then you succumb to it, and then you broadcast that, and you teach others that they're helpless too. And it's just a belief. So therefore you choose your power, you choose truth. What's the truth about this? Get good at discerning. Trust the answer that comes up. Move with truth in the world. And we're going to be okay.